Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 264th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Just to say, sorry there was no battle last Saturday, but we all, my family and myself went away on holiday last Saturday morning, and we had a really great time. So that's the reason there was no battle last Saturday. Okay, the team I'm in today consists of somebody who's called themselves Tanior Two Shot, but is in fact a Brotherhood member Uther, and he has brought the Rome Scipio faction. Now just to have a closer look at his army there, you can see he's got 3 archer units and only 11 infantry. Now that's a very, very low amount of infantry to bring to the modern 31k battlefield. Be interesting to see how well they do. But if you look at the cavalry that he's bought, if you look at the upgrades that he's got there, can you see he's got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So these elite cavalry are kind of like super elite units with those upgrades on. So it's a very interesting army there. Small amount of infantry, but really elite cavalry. Should be quite good to see how well the army does during the course of the battle. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Cal, who's bought the Rome Scipio faction as well. And then our next teammate is Brotherhood member JGP, who has bought the Rome SBQR faction. If you notice there, he's got 2 archer units and about 14 infantry and about 5 cavalry there, I think. And our last teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction as well. But just to say that once again, this is that old army that I've been talking about the last few battles that we've seen. An army I built maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, but I'm finding that it's doing really good on the modern day battlefield, and that's why I'm using it. Hope you enjoyed this battle. This should be a great one for you to watch. And here is the other team. We have RTW player SBQR Pablo, who has bought the Rome Bruto faction. And then we have RTW player Salty, who has bought the Rome Giulio faction. Now I'd just like to draw your attention to this army. He has got 19 infantry units and no cavalry. So that's 19 infantry and no cavalry. So it'll be interesting to see if the numbers of infantry make up for the lack of cavalry during the course of this battle. Just like to draw your attention to his general. If you notice, he's put 8 upgrades on his general. So that's 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So there's a heck of a lot of pilers in 19 units of infantry. So maybe that might make the difference towards the end of this battle. Their next teammate is Chimera Tamahak, who has bought the Rome Giulio faction. Now I'd just like to have a look at Tamahak's formation here. Can you see it's that old-fashioned, old-school formation that we used to do maybe 9, 10, 11 years ago, the wide formation. If you look at, see, Salty's formation there is an in-depth formation, whereas Tamahak's is a more wide, his formation is. As I say, it's very old. It's like playing a retro game when I see wide formations like this, like we used to use, as I say, 9, 10, 11 years ago. But looks like a pretty good army. And the last teammate is ROTN Black, who's also bought the Rome Giulio faction there. And that looks a pretty good army there. Just draw your attention to, he's got not only his general within his infantry, but he's got an eagle unit. So he's got 2 lots of morale going on there within his infantry. And that always helps infantry when they're in the middle of a battle there. That extra morale bonus there really does help. So that's quite looks like quite a good army to me. And there's a reason I wanted you to show you this battle, and as the battle unfolds you'll see why. I hope you'll find it interesting, especially for newer players. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle here, can you see that the Brutio player that was opposite me is moving over to I think our right centre position there, and the Giulio player with the 19 infantry units is moved over to face my army. Now what I'm thinking here is the enemy have spotted that I've only got 12 infantry in this old army of mine, and to put an army with 19 infantry units up against me would be possibly a good move. Bearing in mind that with 19 infantry against my 12, they've got a 7 infantry kind of advantage there, and you imagine all those pilers advantage that they've got. So I think that's why the team decided to do that there. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, the Giulio player here's got 19 infantry units. The team's obviously decided that they've seen that I've only got 12 infantry units there. So I think they've decided that with 19 infantry facing my 12, then this old army of mine could well be beaten on this flank by so many enemy infantry. So I think it could be an interesting tussle on this left flank there. Let's have a look at the general disposition there. Can you see that JGP is formation there? Once again, old school, wide formation rather than in depth. Although he has got a little bit of depth there, so maybe a bit of both worlds there. He's got old and new. And if we move over to our right centre and right flank, you can see that not a lot going on at the moment. Maybe a little bit of pilot exchanging, but and if you notice there, Uther's got his 3 archer units. I imagine he'll use his years of experience with those archer units there to put them in the best position and to aim at the best targets there. Now remember, Uther only had 11 infantry in his army, so it wouldn't surprise me if the enemy have spotted that. And there you go. Can you see the Julii general opposite Uther is starting to do a flanking action here? I think he's looking to use his superiority in numbers there to flank Uther and force him back. And as you can see here, can you see Uther is now moving back there as that enemy Julii player is starting to flank him there. As I say, when the enemy feels they've got the superiority in numbers, it kind of gives them a bit of how can I say, inspiration, like a little bit more confidence that they can attack. Right, but if you notice over here, can you see that I'm now doing an aggressive left flanking action here? Okay, let's just pause again for a second. Now we know that the enemy in front of me have got 19 infantry units to my 12, so he's got the numbers. But I'm not going to stand there and let him attack me. I'm not going to give him the initiative. This is the reason I wanted to show you this battle. My old army here, as I say, with only 12 infantry, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to attack. I'm going to take the battle to the enemy here. As I say, he got the numbers, but why should I give him the initiative? So I'm going to grab the initiative and I'm going to aggressively attack this Julii army here. You see, like I say, he's got 19 infantry units against my 12, but can you see how he's backing off here through the aggressive attack that I'm doing here? Now, when you do a flanking attack, it's not only just to try and attack the player opposite you. What you're trying to do is disrupt the enemy battle line. Now if you notice here, can you see their right and their right centre here looking to get a little bit disrupted by this attack I'm doing. And if you notice, can you see the Julii player's infantry's flank now is exposed to JGP's cavalry and infantry? If you look, can you see now I've forced him back with my aggressive attacking tactics here on this flank, and now he's kind of opened his flank up a little bit there to JGP's cavalry or infantry if JGP wants to attack. And I've forced him right round now to be facing out to the flank by this aggressive attack. As I say, newer players watching this, remember what we've talked about in other battle videos. If you attack, you have the initiative, then the enemy have to react to you. They kind of got to dance to your tune. If I could have just easily stood there and let this massive infantry army attack me, but why? He's got the numbers. Why should I give him the initiative? So newer players watching this, that's the reason I wanted to show you this battle. Be aggressive, but controlled aggression. Make sure you've got good allies as well to back you up when you do these flanking attacks. But if you notice, can you see we're already starting to disrupt the enemy battle line there on that flank? Meanwhile, over on the left flank here, you can see that Uther's facing the Julii general there. Not a lot going on at the moment. I think there's been some pilot exchanging and a little bit of skirmishing going on there over on that flank, but not a lot going on so far there. Right, if you notice, can you see the Julii player, enemy player in front of me pulling further and further back as I'm moving forward? If you notice with my army, I'm not moving massive distances with each move. I'm only moving small distances. That's what I find the best thing to do, just small distance, and just when the enemy sees you moving, even a small distance, then they'll react to that. Right, let's just pause again for a second. Okay, so you can see here I'm pushing that Julii army back, and you can see that JGP now with his SBQR army, can you see how he can get around the flank of that Brutii, the enemy Brutii infantry now with his infantry? Could even throw some pilots into those close units there, close formed up units there. So by forcing this Julii player where I have forced him, he has now left the flank open of his Brutii ally, plus his own flank open there, and it'll be interesting to see if we can take advantage of that as the battle progresses. See how unrelenting I am with the aggressive attack here. As I say, I've really grabbed the initiative here. I'm not going to show fear to an army that's got 7 more infantry units than me. I'm just going to attack and force him back there. Now, can you see his Brutii ally now is pulling back as well? So remember what I said to you earlier about these flanking attacks, not just to attack the enemy, but to disrupt the enemy team's battle line. And that's what we're starting to do here. We're starting to do that. Right, can you see there's a lot of pilot exchanging going on here? Now, whether the Julii general's decided he's not going to go back any further and is going to attack, that could well be the case. Just going to pause the game for a second here. Right, just to show you that not only am I facing those 19 infantry there, whose flank now, can you see the flank is now exposed to JGP's infantry and cavalry. If he wants to attack, he can smash into the flank of those Julii infantry there as the Brutii players pull back. But as I say, I'm not just facing 19 infantry now on this flanking attack, but also the Brutii cavalry there as well. 6 units of fresh cavalry ready to charge in. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to counter-attack on this right flank. If you notice, I've got my 6 cavalry waiting at the back there. So if they do charge in, I'll send them in as well to neutralise the cavalry charge. Be interesting to see if they're going to be aggressive on that flank. Meanwhile, as I say, you can see the Brutii army moving over. Can you see JGP starting to attack the flank of that enemy Julii army there? As the Brutii general's pulling his infantry over to that flank, but to the rear of his allies. Meanwhile, over on the far flank there, you can see that the Julii player there has moved forward and has flanked a little bit there and made Uther move his infantry a little bit more central. So I say, newer players watching this, this is the one reason really I wanted to show this battle to you, just to show how aggressive you can be, controlled aggression, and how you can grab the initiative even against far superior numbers to your own army there. As you can see here, lots of pilot exchanging going on at the moment. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me if that Julii general decided he doesn't want to go back any further. He's got Brutii cavalry to back him up, and he may well attack. But as I say, his left flank there of that Julii infantry is very exposed to JGP's cavalry and infantry there. So as I say, we'll have to see if we can take advantage of that as the battle progresses. Can you see once again I'm moving forward again? I'm kind of trying to push that Julii general back. Right, now he's decided he's not going to go back any further, or his teammates have said to him, look, you've got the numbers, we put you there to attack that small army, so attack. And that's what he's decided he's going to do now. You can see he's thrown 4 infantry units into attacking my Polish shield units there. So I'm going to run one of my units forward to try and support my Polish shield units there. If you notice, I think the Brutii cavalry general was thinking about charging them in and then decided to pull them back over the other flank there. Meanwhile, can you see that JGP is now charging some of his SPQR infantry into the flank, the exposed flank of the Julii infantry there? Meanwhile, over on the far flank, you can see not a lot going on there on the actual far flank there, but it looks like things are poised like kind of a bit of a knife edge at the moment to see who's going to attack there. Obviously there's going to be some aggressive play. You see Cal charging his cavalry in there, and it looks like the enemy are just charging their cavalry in as well. And as I say, JGP's SPQR infantry attacking the flank of the Julii player there, Tamahaks. And meanwhile, back over on this far flank here, our left flank, you can see that I'm just about to charge my cavalry into that attacking Julii infantry, and bang as that cavalry hits. If you notice, the impact of that cavalry there has routed about 4 of those Julii units. Now it wouldn't surprise me if JGP, see it, there you go, can you see JGP bring this cavalry into the flank of that exposed Julii infantry, and as that cavalry hits, so much impact, bang as that hits. 6 units of cavalry straight into the flank of those Julii infantry there. Let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see here JGP's attacking. He's got a couple of infantry units in his cavalry, and I'm pressing forward with my infantry. The Brutii general there is facing some more of JGP's infantry, and also he's charging his cavalry in to support his allies here. It looks pretty touch and go over on that flank there. Lots of cavalry charges in by both teams there, I think. Just like to draw your attention to Uther using his archers wisely here. Got them at the back of his infantry and targeting the enemy there. Now, I'd just like to show particularly newer players to the game here. Can you see how his archers are shooting fire arrows into the enemy? Do you remember what we said about fire arrows? It not only causes casualties, but it actually lowers the morale. Can you see the units that are being hit by those archers, those fire arrows there, are panicked by fire attack? So this drains their morale as well. So not only is he causing casualties, but he's causing their morale to drop as well by using fire arrows. Nice move there by Uther. As you can see here in that right centre of ours, massive cavalry and infantry hits going in there. Whether this part of the battlefield could be pivotal, we just have to wait and see. Or whether maybe the other flank, where JGP and myself are attacking, maybe that might be a pivotal part of the battle. Let's just see. Can you see I'm charging my cavalry in again as it hits that Julia? And can you see JGP's charging his cavalry in? We kind of got the enemy Julio infantry in a cavalry sandwich there. Can you see all the Julio infantry starting to rank? But do you remember we looked at the upgrades on that Julio general? Do you remember it had 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack, and it's still holding, even though it's being hit by 2 lots of cavalry. Meanwhile, over here you can see the enemy Brutii infantry pretty well intact. He's charging his cavalry in there. Big cavalry hits going in on these on this flank here. Remember, the infantry of both teams are fighting hard there, as well as those cavalry units attacking.
The enemy general is running away.
I see a lot of our Scipio units, allied Scipio units, starting to rout at this time. Just pause the game for a second. So as I say, there's a lot of cavalry, a lot of infantry fighting in this one particular part. I think that's that right centre there. Now, whoever wins there could well go on to win the battle. It would be interesting to see. Lots of, as I say, cavalry and infantry battling there. You can see that the enemy Brutii general there is now being attacked. His infantry being attacked on the right flank, where we've broken the enemy Julii army. Remember that Julii army of 19 infantry? Between us, JGK and myself have managed to break them, and now we're attacking the enemy green infantry, the Brutii infantry on the right there. But as I say, you know, the army opposite me had the numbers, but okay, he had the numbers, but I'm not going to give him the initiative. That's why I attacked. Right, just like to draw your attention here to a nice cavalry move here by Uther. Now, do you remember Uther's cavalry really well upgraded? And he took it round the back there to smash into the back of those engaged Julii infantry. But if you notice, there was a lot of enemy cavalry around there as well that have now actually engaged Uther's cavalry. Now, Uther's cavalry was battle damaged already, even though they got good upgrades on. They're holding quite well, but they were battle damaged before this this little tussle here. Now, whoever wins, if the enemy wins here, they could take their cavalry round the back of our team's engaged Scipio infantry. You could go round the back, look, round there, and straight into the back of our engaged infantry, which would probably give them the battle there. If you notice here, can you see that the Julii infantry at this particular part of the battlefield here has got Cal's infantry coming in behind, and he's got Uther's infantry at the front. So the Julii general and several of his units are being sandwiched there between 2 lots of Brutii infantry. Meanwhile, their Brutii, green Brutii infantry there is still holding out against my infantry and JGK's cavalry hit there. Sorry, JGP. As we're going in there, can you see how we're attacking that Brutii army now? And if you notice, I've sent my cavalry, I've bypassed the Brutii infantry and charged into that little group of Julii infantry that was sandwiched between our allies there, in the hope of trying to get that general. I think I would have aimed at that Julii general there with my cavalry, obviously trying to kill the general and lower the morale of his army. Right, nice cavalry charge here by JGP into the flank of the engaged Brutii infantry. Bang, as that cavalry hits, routing all that Brutii infantry. If you notice, I was pinning the infantry with my infantry, and then JGP went in with his cavalry and took out that engaged infantry.
Great gods be praised.
And it looks like our team has managed to go on and win this battle. Just see Uther took a couple of his archer units round behind the enemy team there, I noticed, shooting fire arrows into the rear of the enemy infantry. Nice move there by Uther. So it just looks like, as I say, our team has managed to go on and and win this battle. But as I say, the main reason I wanted to show this battle was just to show that, especially new players to the game, how being aggressive, grabbing the initiative, can really help your team to win the battle there. So I thought that was a good example of that for newer players. First thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. I'd just like to say, draw your attention. You see the Julio player there, he had that 19 units of infantry. But look, if you notice, he only got the smallest amount of kills on the battlefield. And remember what we've talked about, maybe it's not the size of the army that you bring, but it's how you use it. Just like to say, nice kills to JGP there, 1,720, and nice kills to Uther as well. Remember, he only had 11 infantry, but he's managed to get to 1,460 infantry kills there. If you notice, my kills not too bad for the smallest army on the battlefield. So to say, really well done to Cal, Uther and JGP. Really well played, guys. Some great teamwork there. Some nice attacks. And really well played to Black, Tamahak, Salty and Pablo. Well played, guys. Nice battle there. Some nice moves, some nice tactical moves there. So really well played to you. Your Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed this battle. Look forward to seeing you soon. And bye for now.